In my last video, I was out here talking about a wedding cake couple that had booked a tasting. We undertook some cake tasting sessions with them, and after 3 tastings, they didn't like the cake and all plans were off. I discussed my immediate feeling in that video, which is up here somewhere for you to check. So even though that was a I'm not buying a cake moment, let's focus on the good times and discuss a time where I undertook the full-on tasting experience and the couple came and enjoyed their cake, which led to an amazing wedding cake. So that should give you a balanced view of what goes on behind the scenes about wedding cakes and cake tastings. And in the spirit of honesty, in my last video, I hope my perspective and feelings were made clear, that I didn't focus on the bride who had every choice to decide that she didn't want the cakes that were offered to her, because food is subjective. I made that clear, and the intention was not to settle on any negativity on it, because I didn't really feel that way, to be honest. I just wanted to bring a truthful and honest experience about the business of cakes, where people can make an order or people can inform your expectation and still change their mind. But that's in the past now. Let's talk about a time when a bride and a groom, I still have a lot of love for this couple, because when they came to me, I tell you what stood out, it was their sense of consideration. And the bride was very, very, very set in her planning objectives. She was amazing to work with. And when I meet a couple like that, they make my life easy. So I'm going to take you behind the scenes, and you're going to see a lot of what happens when a cake tasting is underway. Join me in my home, because that is where the cake tastings happen. In my home lounge, it's a sit-in, there's a transformation, a lot happens for a deposit that doesn't mean much. Let's go. So what's a cake tasting? A cake tasting is part of the cake order process, particularly on this occasion for a wedding, where a couple could taste samples of cakes which will inform the choices they make regarding their ultimate wedding cake. In my business, tastings are reserved exclusively as part of the wedding cake consultation process, with generalized details on my website. Tastings can, however, be tailored to individual preferences, and for this couple, their cake tasting was a personalized sampling of all the preferences of their cake choices, ranging from buttercream to servings of various sponge options. For me, a cake tasting is an opportunity to meet the couple, get to know them a bit more, and to understand their design preferences, including what is really important to them about their cake. This will eventually help me design their cake with all the confidence I need. After all, a wedding cake is of such great significance, and I'd love to do my job right. For my couple on this occasion, the bride knew a bit about cakes and was keen on tasting a few different cakes and buttercream options, which were her favorite. As a plus, though, the groom was an active part of the process, because let's face it, in my experience, most grooms are just happy to sit this one out and would let the missus take the lead on this one. The options of their buttercream were Swiss and French buttercream. Also, there was cream cheese to match their lead cake option, which was carrot cake, and American buttercream, which was a marker for how sweet a certain type of buttercream can be. And over here, I'm dishing the various samples into small pots and labeling them accordingly. I do this 24 hours before the tasting to allow for planning. The buttercream is made fresh a day earlier to ensure it settles for the flavors to develop, and yet is still fresh tasting with a good mouth feel. The couple's sponge options included carrot cake as their main cake, a lemon cake, curd filling, and lemon flavored buttercream was their second option. They had a third choice they weren't quite sure about, hence were open to the generalized samples such as the Victoria sponge and red velvet cake to inform their decisions. Their cake was going to be a 3-tiered cake, with each tier as a different sponge option and accompanying buttercream. This they hoped would enable variety when serving the cake. They also intended to include vegan and gluten-free cupcakes to make for an inclusive experience for all their guests. With all these to work through, the cakes were prepped as I would a regular layered cake, and this included leveling, filling, and crumb coating each cake with ganache or buttercream before slicing the cakes into serving bites. It's important to note the cakes were filled and coated just as the potential wedding cake is likely to be, to maintain consistency in taste of product. With all the cakes filled and wrapped, these are left in the fridge to set before they are sliced into pieces. Important to note, the generalized options of cake here are the cake sponge options available to all clients. Hence, the couple's option of carrot cake and cream cheese were all custom options for which an additional fee was charged. The cakes have gone in the fridge to chill set. They'll be brought back to be sliced to be served later to the couple. In the meantime, I thought I'd come back and have a chat with you about some aspects of the cake tasting process, just to give you some bit of clarity. First of all, let's talk pricing. The cake tasting is set up in a way where it is supposed to be a win for the couple. Normally, a deposit is paid as a charged fee. The general guidance of it is on my website, but it is also set on individual preferences where a surcharge may increase the cost from generalized to custom servings. When the fee is charged, it's charged with the intention that it will be credited to their cake when a cake is finally confirmed. But if they don't confirm a cake or they pull out of the tasting, then the amount that is put towards the tasting then goes for the service that is provided for them anyway. But it's important to note that the cake tasting in itself is not key to actually selling a cake. That gives the couple a chance that they can come and observe all the processes, taste the cake. But it's not just cake they are tasting, it's also an in-depth discussion about their cake. In the consultation, they get to bring physical elements such as fabric and floral items or certain things that represent the color and themes of their wedding cake, which is discussed in detail because color translates differently in food. So having presented several items that I can observe and look at, I can align that to their cake when I am designing it. I've actually had this couple, in this case, the bride order samples of the fabric of their theme, which is blue, and then sent it over, for which I was able to align that with the color of their cake. Wedding cakes are extremely personal. They're very intimate, but they're also exciting yet stressful. As a result, both parties have a responsibility to make sure that they are choosing the appropriate person to dispense on the job for them. That is the making of the wedding cake. So just as much as the bride and the bridegroom are sitting and making decisions about who they want to make their wedding cake, I am making decisions about whether they align with my values and that whether they are the couple I want to serve at all. For me, one thing is a deal breaker. If I do not get clarity of design from the couple, as in if they are not sure even after my guidance and there's a bit of confusion about what they want and there's doubt about their own need, it's a non-starter for me, because I need to be clear with all the guidance and information I provide. It's important that I am clear by understanding what their need is so I can produce a cake for them. If that's not the case, then I cannot produce the cake with a level of doubt in my mind. So the cake tasting is actually an intimate, personal time for both parties to engage with each other. It's a fine dance for us to sort of suss each other out, but for me it's still with open heart, because I love hosting and I feel like cake tastings for me bring out some aspects of the cake decorating process that I do not get to share at all. So having a chance of someone visiting my home, sitting in my intimate space with them, me talking about such a personal and intimate thing such as their wedding cake, is almost like we can't do without a cake tasting. So I actually insist on it. The aspect of the cake tasting you saw, which is me making cakes, is only a minuscule aspect of the process itself. For me, cake tasting is a lot. It includes having to clean my house, and it doesn't mean I live in a filthy house, not at all. I am just house proud. I love the fact that if someone is visiting me, I can dedicate my time to getting the place set up so homely for them, so they feel at home. So don't be watching this video and be judging me that because I'm having a cake tasting, I am cleaning my house. That is not the case. I had almost thought about a time when I wanted to clean and deep clean and carpet clean and all of that. And the cake tasting was just a good chance for me to just stop sitting around and get up and do it. So for this one, I had to do the carpets, I had to tidy the house. There was a lot of cleaning, okay, but that was done, I think, the carpet were cleaned, I think, a week before, just to give it time to dry and stuff like that. And then part of the cleaning tasks, as in tidying my entire house, dusting and all of that, were 2 days before. So all of these were done way in advance before the cake aspects came in. Now there is some part of the story I would like to tell you, but I'm a little bit conflicted because it involves fecal matter. Okay, I'll tell you all about that when we come back. With the cleaning tasks long, boring and laborious, in tandem were the cakes I had to carefully slice into sizable serving pieces. And here, all the small details of each cake size will matter, at least to me. There's a lot of heart that goes into tasting, which I appreciate may not be the same for most businesses. But for me, this part of running a business highlights my core values as a business owner, what is important to me, and the intention behind what I do. The notion that I would be considered as part of a couple's most intimate, memorable celebrations such as their wedding is very humbling to me, and it really encourages me to do my best. And whilst a purchase may not be guaranteed, I want the couple to walk away with a memorable experience of their search for their preferred wedding cake maker and about the subject of cakes overall. With most of the tasks done, there is a mock setup just to ensure every item placement is exactly in its place, and this includes the tea and selected beverage options for the couple. This part of the process genuinely excites me, as there is something warm about hosting a guest in my home. I had to even employ some help for careful instructions about the use of the coffee maker, and that's an indication of how much coffee I drink. Coffee makes me feel a ways I can't seem to describe. And about the subject of things I cannot describe, I must mention at this point in the process there was an emergency developing on my doorstep that involved an ugly subject I'd rather not mix with food. But since I promised to tell you all about it, let's just say perhaps this is the time I will warn you. The subject is messy and I'm going to be squirming telling it. The unsavory story that I am still conflicted about sharing is the subject of fecal matter. Having undertaken all that work, including carpet cleaning and deep cleaning my house, the morning before the couple were to arrive, a manhole situated right in front of my house had been bubbling up some unsavory fluid, okay? A back and forth ensued between a maintenance company and all of that. Long story short, this wasn't resolved quick enough. So the morning before the couple arrived, it all went up. This is in the spirit of honesty, because I wanted to bring some honest experience to the subject of cake making, this rather beautiful, sweet element that we all get excited about, that is an integral part of some emotional celebrations and the process of making it. And this cake tasting was nearly ruined after all that work. But I wasn't going to give up, not because I was thinking about myself. I was also thinking about the couple. The conversations were ongoing, and they weren't local to me, so they were traveling a distance of about 2 hours to come and have the tasting. So to tell them I had this leak in the front of my house and all of that was just going to be a non-starter. Meanwhile, the appointment, I think, was about 2 p.m. that day, and this whole thing started to go up at 11 o'clock. So you know what I did? Quick thinking got me through this one. The front of my house was literally flooded in SHIT. When I tell you, okay? So this is what I did. I went out of the house like I was sweating bullets. If I told you how I was feeling, I can't even put it in words. Even talking about it makes me feel a certain way, okay? So I stood outside looking out to see if I would see a car I didn't notice or I hadn't seen before. Luckily, by just a stroke of fate, the couple got sort of lost and called to inquire about directions. So I directed them towards the path that will lead to the backyard, meaning they will come through the back garden entrance, and they were none the wiser about the trouble that was ensuing in front of the house. The entire time I was sitting and thinking and hosting them, I was like, oh my God, let nothing happen. Let not the neighbor or somebody come and knock on the door to ask me about this thing that is in front of the house. But eventually it all went okay. So let's get back to the table and see this setup. That was great. That was exciting. But in tandem, I wasn't in my best feelings on the day. While my angst about the issues at my front door was front of mind during the tasting session, the tasting itself was amazing. The couple were great, and the decision to have me as their wedding cake maker was confirmed shortly after the tasting, and I must say that was a mutual feeling. I loved them and was honored to make their cake. Bear in mind, the couple's caring and considerate nature that I had observed from the beginning will become pivotal to some unexpected development later in the process. I'll be sharing more in the next video to come. In the meantime, do consider subscribing, hit the notification bell to be notified of videos such as these and more, and don't forget to like and share this video.